Hi there, everybody. This is Tim Lee, Director of the Texas Retired Teachers Association. It's really great to see all of you today, and we are turning on our comments so that we can pay attention to the questions that you all have. Today I have the great privilege of being joined by two of my good friends, TRTA past president Nancy Byler is with us. Nancy is the chair of our legislative committee. Jan, it's good to see you. How are you? And it's also, Jan was one of our guests, Nancy. I wasn't calling you Jan, so just so you know.
You called it worse.
So then we also have Larry Yawn. He is our TRTA legislative coordinator. Larry, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Hope you are too.
Excellent. So Jan is joining us on YouTube, and other folks are going to be checking us out on Facebook. And I'm going to screw this up, y'all, so somebody correct me. First of all, if you're watching on YouTube, it would be great if you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Believe on YouTube, there's also a little bell that if you hit the bell icon after you subscribe, then anytime we do one of these videos, you'll be able to watch it. We've been doing a lot of live videos, and I think we may start doing some other recorded videos too, just on other subject matter. So it's a great way to just make sure that you're logged in. I see Terry Allen is here. Terry, it's good to see you. Opal is joining us on Facebook as well. So if you are on Facebook, and do either of you remember what the process is? Is it like us on Facebook? Is that what it is? Like us on Facebook? All right. So if somebody knows, Roy, if you're watching, you can tell me again what you're supposed to do when you're on Facebook. But anyway, the whole point is, we'd like us on Facebook. I got it right. I'm so happy. But if you're watching us on the media today, we appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and dive in. Lots to cover. And I know Nancy and Larry have some things they wanted to make sure that you all know. But let's start with some really positive news. Larry, I think this week we had one of our major legislative priorities made it almost all the way over the finish line, but probably pretty close for us to at least say that I think that one's going to be a solid victory. I'm talking about the TRS sunset bill. And so tell us a little bit about, what was the action we saw on the sunset bill? And then I think we're going to talk about a couple of the amendments that were added to it. And then we'll just kind of give some other general overview comments. So Larry, hit us with some info about sunset.
Sure. Well, the sunset bill passed the House of Representatives on the 22nd of April, went over to the Senate, and went through the Senate pretty quickly, actually, being passed on the, I'm sorry, I got the wrong date, I said the 22nd of April, 22nd of March, and then passed the Senate, as you said, on the 6th of this month. It is very, very similar. The version the Senate adopted is very similar to the House version. There are a few things in it that will need to be concurred in by the House, but it appears that the House is ready to concur with those amendments. And if they do, that bill then will be finally passed and ready to be sent to the governor for his signature.
Good. Nancy, I know this the sunset process doesn't happen all the time. If I'm right, TRS hasn't been under what they call that sunset review process for 12 or 15 years or something. So early on, I think our members were a pretty instrumental part in communicating with this group so that the items that were interesting, of interest to our members, got in the bill. So I think we have an ombudsman now. Is that right? There'd be an ombudsman. So we had the ombudsman added. There was an amendment that I believe said, hey, if you retire January 1st, 2021 or before, you will not be hit by this 12-month exclusion penalty, which means that if you're already retired, and again, we're not talking about those folks that are going to retire in the future. That's a totally different issue and one that potentially has some consequences to it. But we're talking about the group of folks that are already retired. If you've been working in a school district and you've gone back to work because for whatever reason you needed to do that, you're going to make sure that, oh, Nancy, can you not hear anymore? All right. Well, she's working on it, y'all. So can you hear me, Larry? Am I on mute?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So Nancy's going to fix her audio, but listen, y'all, that's what live video is all about. This is definitely live video. So but anyway, the 12
may need to kind of give her some advice.
Yeah, Roy's, I think, on it. So,
yeah.
So back to that amendment about the 12-month deal. So if you're retired, you can go back to work without losing your annuity, without having to sit out, the full 12 consecutive months. There was a lot of, Larry, I think there was a lot of discussion about that because we didn't want to do something that was going to cause some actuarial impact on the system. And the biggest issue is that if you're already retired, your actuarial impact has been realized by the system. So that will, I think, will help a lot of folks who may have been doing halftime work or had been kind of going over that halftime work to find out all of a sudden, hey, now I can work more without losing my annuity. If that's what I think that's what that amendment's all about.
Yeah, I believe so. There's several things that are in the sunset bill that are really amendments to help things that have been implementation problems at the TRS level after the legislature had previously acted. That's one of them, that date. There are other things that deal with, the amount of when you actually do go over time and get docked, get your retirement docked in some form or fashion. There's going to be a new approach to that, which is very, very helpful to the people who are already retired. So all in all, it's great that is the first bill that appears to be our first victory.
Yeah, I want to give a couple, shout outs here. First of all, let me say hi to some more of our folks. I see Deborah Keys has chimed in. Ellen is here on Facebook. I saw Richard, Gloria Kay is here. Sheila, how are you? Steve Caruso, thanks for checking in. Vivian Wright is here. Glad to see you. Plano's checked in. Good job, Plano. Judy Burrows, thanks for being here. Y'all, Carolyn, it's great to see you. Gloria, it's good to see you. And somebody said, yes, they can hear me. That's probably the biggest problem with the whole thing is that, they're tired of listening to me. But we really are glad everybody's here. And so, Larry, you mentioned one of the big deals of that bill and that sunset was that if you were working in a position and you were going beyond the allotted amount of time, there's going to be this kind of early warning system now. And so there was some work done by one of TRTA's longtime supporters, Kel Seliger. And so any of our folks that are watching in Kel Seliger's Senate district, I want to say, hey, thanks to Senator Seliger for really helping. Joanna in his office has been an amazing person for us to work with. So we're really grateful for Senator Seliger. We're grateful for Gene Wu. Gene, state rep out of the Houston area, put a lot of work into this and making sure that these issues have stayed with it. Of course, Stan Lambert, who carried the Sunset Bill. John Cyrier, who's chair of the Sunset Commission. Senator Don Buckingham, who is, I think, vice chair of the Sunset Group. All of the members of Sunset, we appreciate them listening to us, meeting with us. Angela Paxton, and I'm going to miss some because I don't have it in front of me. But we're really grateful to get this thing moving. Rafael and Chia, who made sure that the bill moved. And I know this went to Senate Finance. And so I want to say thanks to Jane Nelson, chair of Senate Finance. I want to say thank you to Joan Huffman, who helped clarify some questions on the floor. Senator Huffman has been such a strong supporter of retired teachers. I know that Lois Colkhorst, a friend of mine for many, many years, has worked on specifically with TRTA all session long to make sure that on the return to work language that we got it right so there wouldn't be an actuarial impact. And, we are committed to, just like Senator Colkhorst, to make sure that as we continue to make improvements to TRS, we're not going to do anything that's going to start spinning that actuarial condition out of control. So many parts of this bill, so many players, so many, all of the members who voted for it. Senator Lucio, I can't remember if I mentioned he was our guest speaker. Larry, that's the problem when you start naming people, is you want to get everybody. And so I just want to say to everyone that we mentioned and everyone that hasn't been mentioned yet, thanks for being a part of that. The bill it's left the Senate. I think the House has to, as you said, they have to concur. Ultimately, it does have to be signed by the governor for it to become law, or there's a certain period after the bill passes that it becomes. But, TRS it wasn't going away. It's constitutionally required, but there was an opportunity for a lot of questions to get asked. And this thing it was all hands on deck. So let me take just a second. It's good to see Billy Jack checking in. I saw Bill Barnes check in. Irene Cook is here. I think I saw our folks from down in the valley check in. I see Opal from here. Hey, Mary Jane's good to see you. Jan Mitchell, y'all keep checking in. We're glad to see you here. And Larry, anything else that we need to talk about the sunset?
Just fingers crossed that it happens real quick now. So I've kind of already marked that off our chart, but we don't need to drop it from our memory.
Yeah, let's do this, y'all. How about we, most of you folks that are tuning in to watch today, jump on Facebook this weekend, find your state senator or your state rep and say thank you for helping support the TRS sunset bill. It is really hard to get access to an elected official with the last 4 weeks of session now. And so one of the areas where they see your comments probably more than any place else is on Facebook. So if you're not a Facebook friend with your state rep and your state senator yet, I highly encourage you to find their page, become a friend of that page, and start making comments, because that's one place that a lot of our reps and senators say they look, as much as the rest of us. So take a look and find your folks to say thank you for doing that. So anyway, we're going to let you know that one, if there's any other changes on that. Larry, go ahead.
No,
okay, all right. I thought you were going to add something else. Sorry about that. So all right, let's transition to the order of business that I think a lot of our folks are talking about, kind of behind the scenes. It's been a week since we were on here last talking about the cost of living and what's going on with a few of our bills that are still in this procedural kind of limbo area that we call the calendars committee. And I'm not going to even try to say that I understand, on live television right now, everything there is to do about calendars. But Larry, I think it's probably safe to say there's still some work that's going on behind the scenes. What do you encourage our members to be doing right now on House Bill 3214, for example?
Well, the most important thing that members, TRTA members, can do is to continue letting their legislator know of their interest and strong support for this COLA being adopted this legislative session. And if your legislator has already said, "Hey, look, I'm voting for it. I'm a co-sponsor," or whatever, if they've done that, then maybe an interim thank you to them, if you will. Thank you for doing that, and ask them to talk to some of their colleagues who are on the calendars committee and express their interest for that bill to get on the floor. The COLA bill now has over 80 authors, joint authors, and co-sponsors.
Wow.
And anybody who knows the count of people in the House of Representatives knows that 80 people who agree on a bill is a large number to agree. In fact, it passes the bill when the vote comes. So at this point, we need to be shoring up our sponsors, our co-sponsors, our legislators who have expressed their willingness to work for us on that bill. And we need to be encouraging the calendars committee to have the bill set soon rather than later, so that we can get this debate started on the floor and hopefully move it over to the Senate quickly.
Yeah, let's dig into the actual text and kind of the reality of the bill. I know that last, Larry, you and I were talking just a few minutes ago about how we always talk in acronyms.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're almost talking in code sometime. So let's kind of go cover the bill just so that a lot of the folks are checking in right now already know a lot of this. And we've got Richardson here now. I see Everett is here. I see Sugarland is here. Houston is here. Lubbock is here. Great to see Mary Sexton from Lubbock. Thanks for checking in. You're one of your folks is really important to this process, as you know, Mary, with Chair Burrows. But here's the deal. So the House Bill 3214 would provide for a cost of living increase for all retirees who retired. I think it's 8/31. I'm gonna get the dates wrong. 2019 or before, and the COLA would be a 6% increase in a person's retirement benefits, or it would cap out at $100 per month. So, simple math on live, show like this is if I'm one of the 135,000 TRS retirees that is right now making $1,000 a month, or somewhere in that neighborhood, a 6% increase is going to be a $60 a month increase that will never go away. So that will raise that base retirement by 6%. So if maybe I retired later on, maybe my service history is different, maybe my pay was different. Some folks have said, well, why is it capped at $100? It's not really a 6% if it's capped at $100. So Larry, we talked about this a lot. And so, I think, why don't you kind of, if you don't mind, tell us about how you don't want to cross over that line of more than 31 years. So tell us about that as kind of the guiding principle here.
Well, to set the bill up in such a way that it will keep the fund actuarially sound, i.e. stay under the 31-year funding time, you have to actually cost it out in such a way that it won't cost above, let's say, $3 billion, which is about the amount of the COLA bill cost. If you were to just apply 6% across the entire payroll, the annuity payroll, you would take the cost to the fund over the 31-year period. So as we were working with our consultant to establish the language for the bill, what we asked him to do was to direct as much as possible toward those people who are receiving the lowest income in an annuity, but try to include everyone. And the suggestion was, well, if we capped it at $100, we would be able to keep the cost below that magic 31-year period. Yep. So that was the philosophy of the legislative committee and of the people who were working for you as your legislative team as we took this to the legislature and got a sponsor for it.
Right. So really, really important information. I hope y'all can start to talk to your fellow retirees. And again, a lot of our leaders are checking in. I got Brownsville here. Dora's here from Brownsville. I just saw East Texas. Bo is here from East Texas. And so you all are kind of the tip of the spear. When you're talking to your fellow retirees and they say, I just don't understand why the bill does this or the bill does that. There's a reason for all of it. And the biggest reason is that you have to find the path forward that is not going to tip the scale to the side where nobody will get anything. You cannot do anything that would make the system not actuarially sound or beyond that 31-year threshold again. So right now, the bill we know the information that we need to know. The bill would provide the raise. It costs approximately $3.6 billion. And that $3.6 billion is not paid out all at one time. So you've got a portion of it that's paid out in the first year, and then the next year rolls around and that portion of what the cost is goes down a little bit. And so it's kind of got a depreciating scale over time. But it means that over 400,000 TRS retirees who've been retired for a long time half of which have never had any inflationary increases, any inflationary protection, any cost of living raises. So some people say, well, what does COLA stand for? Well, that's what we call the cost of living adjustment. And so this would be a permanent monthly benefit increase equal to 6% or up to $100. And so we are really pushing to get this to move forward. So I want to say thank you to all of you who are working, just like Larry said. And I'm going to have him remind you again of kind of the action step that we need to take right now. So y'all, I'm going to tell a quick story. Larry, it's probably bad to tell a quick story, but I'm going to tell one anyway. So I was walking the halls of the Capitol this week, and I was going in to visit with the staff of the members that are on the calendars committee. And so I walked into all the offices and had a chance to talk to them. And we are a very large and active organization. It doesn't mean we're the only, active organization. And so I walked in and I was talking to one of the state reps staff people when I could, because the phone was ringing constantly. Just ring, ring, ring. I mean, they'd hang it up, it'd ring again, hang it up and ring again. And one of the tactics that's being used right now is phone banking by certain groups. And these groups will have everybody in the state just bombard one or two state reps. For us, because we're such a large group and because we're so active, if somebody put the names of the folks on the screen earlier, of folks on the calendars committee, if that's your state rep and you're a constituent, I highly recommend that you give that phone call, because I think it's important anytime for a constituent to call a state legislator's office and say, hey, you know what, I'd really like for you to work towards getting that done. If you live in San Antonio and you're trying to, encourage Representative Burrows, who lives in Lubbock, to set the bill, one way to do that might be as effective or even more effective is to call your own state rep and say, hey, can you go see Chair Burrows on the House floor when you guys are on the floor together, and say, hey, you guys are going to set that bill pretty soon? So, Larry, I know there's a lot of strategy here that we can, employ. So, but one of them is communication. You've done this a long time. What other ways can we communicate with calendars folks to try to push the bill?
Well, I think the real key in working with members of any committee, to be very frank, is to find a member, a TRTA person who has a personal relationship with the member that you're trying to present the issue to. It's always better if you have a personal relationship to do that. But there is a lot to be said for what you were saying, and that is that if you are interested in trying to move this out of calendars, for you to go ahead and make contact, encouraging the member on calendars to bring it out. And be assured that when you call or when you email, those messages, if they go to staff, are shared with the member. Just because you don't actually get through to the member, do not be concerned, because the message will get through to the member, and that's the important thing. There are a number of comments, of course, in the comment section talking about the calendars process and wondering, why it hasn't already moved out with as much support as it's got. But we've got to remember that there is a procedure that governs both houses of the legislature, and the procedure in the House is such that it does give an opportunity for anybody as a member of the legislature who has a concern to be able to try to get that concern addressed in some way. Now, at the same time, with the number of people that have signed on as co-authors of this bill, it's pretty evident that the bill, if it were to get on the floor, would stand a very good chance of passing. And so it may be, needing some additional attention right now. But what we need to do is to understand that the calendar is running out. We need time in the Senate to work this bill as well. So our impression to the members of the calendar committee has to be, we understand that you are interested in getting it on the floor. but it's really, really necessary to get it on the floor quickly now so that we'll be able to move it to the Senate and have ample time to talk with senators on the other side of the Capitol to support this bill as well.
Yeah. So best words of wisdom right now, because I see several folks saying, I've called members of the calendars, what can I do? I would strongly suggest that you reach out to your own state rep and say, hey, if they haven't signed on yet, please sign on to co-sponsor the bill, House Bill 3214. If they have signed on as a co-sponsor, just say, you know what, I'm so grateful for your support. If you don't mind, will you have the boss go and see when the bill is going to be moving out of the calendars committee, and we're going to have a chance to talk about it. So that's about all we can do. I would encourage all of you to be pleasant and the kind of folks that we always represent. We're nice. We're to the point. We stand up for what we believe in, but we're not going to do it in the way that a lot of other groups try to do these things today, which is to yell and shout and scream. And that just doesn't work very well. People like to do it sometimes. It really doesn't work. So I'd encourage you to all use your teacher voice and make it be heard, and know that you're continuing to educate. And we'd love to see, all members of the House sign on as a co-sponsor, and we'd like to see this thing move as quickly as possible. So I got a couple. Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
This is a good time to say, 1 month away from adjournment, you've got to recognize the tremendous pressure that is on all members of the House from many different areas. Just think about today alone in the House. The Elections Committee took action to pass the Senate bill out as a House bill in the Elections Committee. There are numerous bills, some dealing with, for example, permitless carry, that are very emotional type bills, and the people are filling the Capitol on those. We have already filled the Capitol. We have already made our substantive claim on this bill, and now what we're trying to do is to simply get their attention long enough to say, hey, this bill's got a lot of support. Let's go ahead and move it on. And the way to do that is in a very steady, a very confident, a very factual manner, and it will produce success. But we have to stay the course. It is absolutely necessary that the plan that's in place continue to be implemented.
Yeah, you know what? I just realized also, Larry, is that the best part about the show, Nancy is not back yet, which I'm sad by. Must have been a technology problem. We're going to have to make sure she gets featured next week. So I see a couple of comments here. One person has asked about the amendment added in the Senate to reset the retirement date of retirees to work without penalties. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. We did add that amendment. It was successfully added. It was supported in the Senate. So if everything turns out the way that we expect, it will mean that if you retired on or before January 1st, 2021, you'll be able to work without restrictions. So June, who asked that question, glad you asked it. Thanks for tuning in. I see Leroy is here with us today. Leroy is our state president. We'll talk about the WEP and the GPO comments in just a second, but I do. Final comment on the COLA for today is it's still in the process. We need a lot of time on the clock, as Larry said, in the Senate. Getting this thing to move in the House is really important. And I really would take a minute to thank our sponsor, our original bill sponsor, Chair Rep Giovanni Capriglione. He has now moved into another phase of the legislative session. He's become a budget conferee, which is one of the 5 people that the House picks to work with the Senate on differences that those two chambers have on budget stuff. And he continues to, take on those responsibilities, as well as fighting for us to see this COLA passed out of the House. So anyone who's tuning in from Giovanni Capriglione's House district, big shout out to him and a lot of thanks for sticking with us and continuing to move this thing as much as we can. All right, so there are a couple other bills I'm going to mention that are in sunset. Hey, I see Chris Artis says, hey, Chris, how are you? It's good to see you today. We've got 2 bills also in sunset that we're keeping an eye on. One of them is a bill by Glenn Rogers, State Representative Glenn Rogers. We talked about this last week. You want to have all options on the table during the session. So we definitely have a COLA track that we're talking about. And Larry, tell me about Glenn Rogers' bill.
Okay, this bill is in calendars. You said in sunset, so let's make
sure. Did I say that? I'm sorry, I meant calendars. Thanks for checking.
Sure, everybody understands. Representative Rogers' bill is in calendars. It is House Bill 3507 by Representative Rogers, and it is a supplemental payment. It is what you have received in the past, and it is capped at $2,400, so that if your retirement check is above $2,400 a month, you would only get the $2,400. If your retirement check is $1,000, you would get $1,000. That bill is in calendars as well. Another one, Tim, that's there is our golden ticket bill, which is the bill to allow people who dropped out of the insurance program 2 years ago, 4 years ago, to maybe rethink their dropping out and come back if they want to.
Yeah.
All of those are in calendars, so we could easily have one or more bills move to the House floor quickly. Our preference would be, of course, that the COLA bill be the first one up and the first one out of the House as quickly as possible. Tim, we may want to just before, there's a lot of questions still coming up on WEP, and we've got some news there, so we need to do that. But we may want to also say to everybody that not only has the sunset bill about to come out of both houses to go to the governor, the finance bill is in the process of the very last step of passing, and it is now in conference committee. And of course, that's where the funding for the continued contribution increase will come. And that is the result of a bill 2 years ago that all these people on this call probably worked very hard for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the bigger worries that our members had coming into the session. I know, Larry, your work and Nancy's work before the session started focused on, what is the major thing that you want to see the legislature really remain, stay committed to. And everybody said, hey, look, we worked hard on getting that bill passed last session that would continually increase the amount of investment the state and the school districts and the active employees are making in contributions to TRS. And they're, coming out of a global pandemic and an economic slowdown, world economic slowdown. There were a lot of doubts that this session would be, as good to funding levels as the last session was. And that would have sent a really devastating message if the legislature hadn't done it. But just to give people some idea of the kind of money that we're talking about, it's $5 billion in investment that the legislature is making in TRS this session with contributions of the trust fund, healthcare. It's a significant investment. And we are very proud and grateful that the Senate and the House both led with, hey, we're going to make sure that we live up to what we promised. I've had some members say, well, isn't that what they're supposed to do? Yes, but at the same time, you never know what every session is going to hold. And so it's really important that the legislative members know that we're a group that recognize the work they're doing, but we also know that the legislators recognize that we're an organization where our members are doing the work. And we're out working these bills, and we're trying to get people to pay more attention to the COLA, to the supplemental payment, to the 13th, or to the golden ticket, being able to come back if you left. So there's still a lot of bills out there that y'all are working on, which we appreciate. So we're going to do some wrap-up comments in just a second. Let me mention WEP, Larry, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
This week we had a joint resolution. It was originally authored by Brian Hughes. It was picked up by Abel Herrero in this pensions committee. Again, thank you to Representative Rafael Anchia for bringing that quickly up in his committee. And it essentially said that the Texas legislature urges Congress to repeal the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. and a question or two asked by Representative Anchia, and I told people what I believe and what I think our members believe is that, especially on the website of things, it amounts to nothing more than theft of somebody's benefits when you know that you're taking something that really doesn't belong to you. And we know that the existing windfall elimination provision calculation is arbitrary. And we've known it now for many years. And even Congress, because the work that you all do, Congress knows that arbitrary formula is ridiculous and wrong, but they still haven't fixed it. And when you know that you're taking something that doesn't and shouldn't belong to you, our members believe, and I'll say it, that feels like you're stealing from us. And we want to end this as quickly as possible. And so we supported that resolution. And I think it was left pending. Larry, was that resolution left pending?
It is pending in Pensions Committee now. Yes.
Yeah. And that's a procedural item that they do. They kind of hear it on one day, they come back to it, another meeting. But we expect that one to fly through. And we talk a lot about the WEP and the GPO, but we wanted you to know that we're taking that to, once that passes, we're going to put that thing into an inside line message for you to send to all of the congressional members and say, the Texas legislature stands with us. Will you stand with us and fix this thing? So I'm sure a lot of people watched the address the other night by the president and probably thought, I wish you'd start talking about the WEP. But we've thought that about multiple administrations going, 3 decades back. And so we're going to keep at it, y'all. We're going to work on this until we win. And we won't be satisfied until we do. So, Larry, anything else you want to add about that right now?
Well, just it seems like to me that the time in Congress is opportune right now because there are a number of pieces of legislation aimed at providing relief, if you will, or fixing things that are identified as broken. This seems like the time, really the time has come for that as well as the time has come here locally for a COLA. So we ought not to let that get out of our grasp. We ought to take a hold of it and move forward with it as quickly as we possibly can.
All right, y'all, we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to get Larry's final thoughts too. So if you've got some questions, I'm going to take a look here at the chat box again. Congress will receive the Texas legislature ready for. So Veronica's asking about how do we make sure the congressional members get the message from the Texas legislature. Trust me, it's going to be that we're going to send that message loud and clear. I see Vicky saying, $100 a month is not enough. Part of that, and Vicky, you may want to type in there again about, is that on the COLA side or is that on the GP or the website? There are a couple numbers floating around. So last week, one of the comments that we had, Larry, was somebody wasn't sure what we were saying about the WEP and being $150 more a month. It wasn't just $150 a year, is what they were giving, but the current WEP formula says that if they pass one of the bills that's out there, they would get $150 a month more. And for the sake of prolonging this conversation, we should probably bring Ronnie Young in on this, talk about how they typically calculate Social Security. And that's just one of those things that it's hard to understand unless you've got a few charts in front of you that show it. But what HR 2337, which is the bill that is by Richie Neal, which is the major bill that is in Ways and Means on the windfall right now, that bill is intended to pay back people based on what they pay into Social Security. So no more arbitrary calculation of benefits, but actually looking at a person's work history and saying, here's all your quarters, here's all the amounts that you paid in, let's apply the calculation just like it should be applied, and we'll pay people based on the amount they paid in. And so that is the nature of what they call the fairness approach to fixing the windfall elimination provision. And so in one of these days, I promise y'all, I will get the charts back out. We'll go through the A, B, and C calculation of the Social Security discussion and why some groups are saying, look, if you just use the same formula, if you take somebody who's paid into a TRS and a Social Security for a period of time, it makes that person look like a low wage earner for their entire working career, and it sort of blows up the amount of earnings that they should get instead of what they paid in. It's complicated. We've heard that before, haven't we? So, but anyway, we're going to dig into that issue. And I would say only this, that we are championing fixing this issue. Try to say that 5 times fast. Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, no, I was, when you're through.
I was going to say, look, our objective is to champion this issue, to get the most that we can get for our members, to base the solutions on what is fair and right and equitable, and to always get as much or more for our members as possible. And so if you are on Facebook and you want to know more about that, email me at tim@trta.org, or you can also use the general email address, I think, is info@trta.org. But Cindy Sharp, I know, is watching, and she may put those email addresses out there. So you can email us direct, and we'll get you more information about how that WEP is calculated and what that benefit increase would be if we were to pass some of these bills. Larry, go.
Well, in kind of as a response to the person who was asking about how will we be sure that we get this information to Congress, it reminded me that we need to make the statement once again that we are in a new Congress. So basically everything is started over. And so what we will be doing is implementing a campaign here within Texas to ensure that all of you at the local level have contacted the congressman who represents you and have asked him or her to sign on as a co-sponsor of Congressman Neal's bill. Now, just to tell you the effect of that, in the last Congress, I think we had all but 2 or 3 Congress people signed on to the bill by the time we were actually visiting in DC, lobbying on behalf of the bill. And pretty quickly after we had been to DC, all of them, I believe, signed on. So we can organize a campaign around WEP, and will organize a campaign around WEP when the time is right, that it is going to be a major issue before the House. First thing we have to do is to get it out of the House Committee on Ways and Means, chaired by Representative Neal. And once that happens and goes to the Senate, then we're going to be hopefully in pretty good stead. And we will certainly make sure that you all have had an opportunity to talk to your own congressman about that as well. And then, Tim, I'll just go ahead and say now, so that I can turn this back to you, and
yes, sir,
you can close the session out as you feel right. First, I don't know if you saw Jerry's email. He said, "Do I understand the Sunset Bill passed?" Yes, Jerry, it passed the Senate and the House both. And we're just hoping for the House to concur in the amendments the Senate made.
Which are all the amendments that we wanted and supported.
Exactly. So it's really, it's a well-written bill because we had so much help from retired teachers writing it. And then the last thing I really wanted to say was, I said this earlier, we have a plan in place. And we have to work the plan that we have right now. And that plan is for us to have as much support for our bills as soon as they come out of calendars and onto the floor as possible. Right now, as I said a while ago, we have about 81 or 82 people who have signed on to the COLA bill, House Bill 3214. House Bill 3214. If you're House member is not a co-sponsor, that should be your first go, is to get your House member a co-sponsor of Chairman Capriglione's bill for COLA. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, we have 107 people who have signed on to Representative Rogers' 13th check bill. That's outstanding, obviously. We do not have as many signed on to the House Bill 2022. So you could always ask your representative to sign on to that as well. The more who are signed on, the more insistent it is that a bill come to the floor for consideration, because those members are already expressing their support of what you need and what you are asking for. So please, first thing up, be sure your rep is a co-sponsor. After that, then we have to continue our contact with the calendars committee to make certain that they understand that our support is not waning. We are our first priority after the other issues have been settled, like finance and like sunset and things like that. After we got those taken care of, the legislative committee has always said we need to establish a revenue stream that will support a COLA. Well, things happened after we wrote that bill, that legislative priority that established that revenue stream for us. We identified it, we took that revenue stream to the members of the House, and we have showed them how it can be paid for without any appropriation from general revenue or without any damage being done to the teacher retirement fund. Now is the time to do this. Our president is on this call, and he has, every time he speaks, he talks about this is the time to pass a COLA. If he were on this visually right now, he would say it. So I'll say it in his behalf. And it will happen with your support and with your continued help in getting the attention of the members of the legislature.
Larry, great comments. Saw a couple other questions come in, and somebody asked, well, are we also talking about the GPO at the same time? Yes. So WEP has a more straightforward path for solution in the immediate realities of how the Congress is moving the issue forward. But it does not mean that we're not also talking about GPO. It is a more difficult bill to pass. And because we have developed, a lot of support nationally on fixing the WEP, and there's momentum behind that, we spend more time talking about it. But it doesn't mean that we aren't also addressing the unfairness of the GPO, because that does affect many people. And you could argue that it affects them in a more challenged and difficult set of circumstances. A lot of times that GPO hits you after your spouse has passed away, and you've tried to collect on your spouse's work history to find out you're not going to get anything, and then it's a much more challenged set of life circumstances after you've not had a chance to really plan and prepare for that. And so we are talking about it. Just wanted to let Pat know that question came through. Last session we did have both John Cornyn and Senator Cruz sign on to various solutions on the WEP reform. And so we got to continue. We're going to keep an open mind. We're going to continue to work with all these folks and make sure that where did Vicky's comments? Vicky was making several good comments. She said, don't let the legislature forget the squeaky wheel gets results. Otherwise, the legislature just hopes we forget, and we won't forget who helps us. I think that's an excellent comment, and is the way that a lot of us are looking at these things today. So last week I promised to try to make this shorter than 52 minutes, so that I've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds to do that. I will say again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, for watching. Please let us know if these Facebook Live events are useful. How can we make them better? What can we do that would be more informative? We will follow up. Friday is a really bad day to do an inside line where we would have, click here's to send things to various legislators because their staff are heading home. It's Friday. So we would rather do a follow-up message on Monday. It's kind of the beginning of the week action to get us focused again. So look forward to your Monday email inbox for some click here's and some actions that you can take to help us on these items. And I want to be very clear. We start to see, the W and the L column for winning and losing. We don't have any losses yet, but we have some wins. The budget has been a win for us. Sunset has been a win for us. Advancing these bills that are important to us the 13th check, the COLA, the tutor bill, which you all know how passionate I am about getting the path cleared for tutoring. We've advanced those bills. We continue to work with Brian Hughes and Beverly Powell and James Tallarico and Harold Dutton and a lot of folks on trying to make sure that the tutoring stuff is going to work out so that you can earn some extra income and help these kids as we go into learning recovery mode with our schools. So there's so much going on, and a lot of things are ending up in the win column. And hopefully for us, we don't see anything show up in the L column. But I know you all are working, and when you're working, it excites all of us to do more and to push and to never give up. And we are really grateful for what you're doing. So that being said, we're going to sign off for this week. Larry, thanks so much. I want to really apologize to Nancy. She's probably watching. Nancy, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened with the technology today, but hopefully next week it'll be better. And on behalf of our state president, who I know is watching, thanks everybody for what you're doing. Have a great day and a great weekend. Thanks. Bye-bye.